Welcome to the Celtic Exchange Weekly. This is Tino. Tonight I'm joined by a full house of James, Paddy and Asim as we celebrate an incredible end to the season which sees Celtic crowned as double winners for the 13th time in our history. James, Billy McNeil once said there was a fairy tale about Celtic Football Club. What do you make of our latest fairy tale ending?
It was exactly that. My comments to a few of the guys after the game on Saturday was there's only two ways I want to ever beat them, especially in a final, was 5-0 or 1-0 last minute winner, and it was the latter. Absolute bedlam on it when that went in. I felt we had it in us, and I thought the subs were good. They were, getting us moving and stuff like that. But yeah, to get it like that, and then the professional attitude to hold it together for the 8+ minutes of injury time, just tremendous.
Yeah, myself and Paddy, we'd done the post-match yesterday, I think. We kind of stumbled our way through that and talked about the fact that after the goal, the mindset, Paddy, from Idah certainly, he scored his goal, had his big moment, had his, let it all out, euphoria moment, and then very quickly switched back into game mode. But no more so than Callum McGregor, who was reminding the crowd there's time to go, we need to tune in and stay focused, and that's exactly what they've done.
They did, and it was great to see. Like, I've seen emotional moments like that before. One of the ones that stand out to me the most was the Rogic goal, and we seen Chris Davies go straight to Brendan Rodgers and say, make this up here, make sure that we see this game out. It's those little moments, they really define a game for me, and I think that we watch McGregor, we watch Idah on Saturday, and it's huge. We've not done it enough this season. We have lost sloppy goals, but they were so determined, and as I mentioned in the post-match last night, a shout for the stands of Joe Hart's not conceding today. I just think that the players felt like that as well. They didn't want to lose a goal. They've kept a clean sheet. So yeah, just great professional. I'll try and say that again. Great professionalism.
Feels like yesterday.
It does. I'm back to it again. As James says, and I just think that they done themselves proud. Just a very solid end to the game.
Yeah, and I thought, you speak about the creatives and the goal scorers and all these guys that, ultimately, win you games of football. But on Saturday, the goalie and defence showed their importance, the key part they played. Joe Hart, absolutely, to finish on such a high in general, but certainly with a clean sheet. And you and I agreed, Paddy, that Cameron Carter-Vickers was massive with key interceptions in both halves. Asim, we done the preview, it was the four of us, wasn't it? Done the preview on Thursday night, and at that stage, you were a man without a cup final ticket. We put it out to the people, the followers, the listeners, and you came up trumps. Tell us the story.
Yeah, I remember at the time I was like, it's more in hope than expectation, because it's like gold dust, these tickets, so I wasn't holding out much hope. But on Friday night I got a message, Friday morning, from a guy on Twitter. Now, he self-admitted his Twitter's quite vague, and he didn't really post much Celtic content on there. So when he sent the tweet out, he's like, look, I watched the show, big fan of the show and big fan of your contributions. Him and his wife usually go, but they only had one in the ballot. Lovely fella called Tony and his wife Veronica. So he said, look, there's only one ticket and we'd like to give it to you. So Tony and Veronica from Cumbernauld went and met them on the Friday. Lovely couple. Sat and chatted all things Celtic for about half an hour, and they gave me their ticket. So big shout out to them. Just shows you the power of the kind of Celtic family, and the stuff you do on the podcast, people that watch and look out and appreciate it. So managed to go and took my nephew along who had a ticket from elsewhere. So brilliant, and just what a day, what a few weeks it's been supporting Celtic, isn't it? And it was just like James said, there's no better way to get up them with a last minute win. So perfect all round.
It was such a poignant story with such a happy ending there.
But a huge thanks to Tony and Veronica. Paddy, Phil were in that ballpark, so we were out on Saturday night, found ourselves in Sharkies on Saturday night, always great fun after the football, and we ourselves get speaking to another really nice woman. So Paddy, tell us a wee bit about Anne from Greenock.
So we arrived in Sharkies on Saturday, and just approached from a fan who just, really nice to hear our thoughts on the podcast as well. And then I think she's seen yourself, Tino, and James, and was just over the moon. But she was gunning for one person, so I'll let you take that one, Tino.
She was myth hunting. Anne actually recorded a wee message for Myth, which was a lot of fun, basically saying that he needs to get over it with Brendan Rodgers. He's absolutely the man. He's cemented his status, and Myth needs to grow up, basically. So we sent that video out. But now a huge shout out to Anne from Greenock. Anne says she's been watching and listening to us from the very start, which is great to see. So brilliant to meet you, Anne. In terms of Celtic, James, just the end to the campaign, we've obviously covered it in various shows in recent times, but one loss in the last 25 games, that tells you all you need to know. And it depends who you listen to, who you follow online. You know, two bad lots, Celtic are struggling, they're this, they're that, and the next thing. The team that wins the title always deserves to win the title, and one loss in 25 games tells you all you need to know about the mentality of this Celtic side.
Yeah, I mean, there's still snipers trying to perpetuate that myth that it's two bad teams. That goal we scored on Saturday was outstanding, and the first goal we scored at Parkhead a couple of weeks ago was of a similar quality. So there's a team that's going out to spoil the way we play football, and that's fair enough. There's 10 other teams that do it in the league, so why shouldn't they? But this Celtic team have quality within them. Now, we need to improve, we know that, and we should have improved last summer and last January. We also know that. But that's not to take anything away from these guys who have worked so hard and scored some wonderful goals and played some beautiful football. So I'm not having that chat that it's two bad teams. It's one bad team.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Asim, the game that we lost over those 25 final games was Hearts at Tynecastle, and there was circumstances on that day, let's just call it that. That loss at that time, though, the loss to Hearts, meant that we'd dropped points in 3 of our last 7 games around that spell, so we'd also drawn with Kilmarnock and Aberdeen. And at that stage, Asim, that's on the 3rd of March. Did you ever anticipate we were going to finish the season in the style that we'd done so?
That's some stat, that, isn't it, when you think about it? 1 loss in 25. No, I think at that point we were all concerned. I think the Hearts defeat did have mitigating circumstances, and I think it was on the back of the 7-0 win against Dundee. So it was kind of, an anomaly, really. We were picking up a bit of form. But to what James said, I'll probably be guilty of saying that maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago, that I did think it was two bad teams. But there's no coincidence when we've got all our fit players back. That spine, the kind of core group of players, Hatate, O'Reilly, McGregor, Carter-Vickers, Joe Hart, Kyogo, that's a really good quality spine, and I think there was spells in there earlier in the season where, we weren't very good, but I think we've excelled in the last, 7-8 games especially, and it's just, you can see that we are, when everything clicks and we've got everyone fit, we're a good team. It's the depth beyond that sometimes it's maybe been the issue. A couple of players out and the replacements aren't up to it. But, full credit to the manager, full credit to all the players, because when push came to shove, we've really delivered, and we put on the style as well. That Kilmarnock victory, the 5-0 one, it's as good as we played all season, and even in previous seasons, that was a top-notch performance. So, I probably didn't foresee it, but you've got to hold your hands up. The manager probably did, and he's timed it perfectly. Absolutely.
We went unbeaten for the final 12 games. The only points we actually dropped were the 2 and the 3 each game at Ibrox, and actually that's a very strong point at that moment in time. It was the start of their undoing, wasn't it? In fact, saying that, Motherwell was the start of their undoing, and then Ross County, and then Dundee, and us. Lots of undoing going on there. Paddy, I want to talk about what I would call the psychological battle which played out in the title race, if you want to call it a race. And I think this is where Brendan Rodgers really stepped up. He's got a broad, varied skill set. He's a talented coach. His man management is excellent. He's clearly very aware tactically. But one of the biggest things he brought to the party was that nous, that savvy that he showed in his various would you call them bouts with Philippe Clement across the media. There's very strong quotes, we've enjoyed them all at the time. We'll write our own story this season. This is where the fun starts. I'll see you back here in May. Various huge quotes. The other one, in my 2 spells here, every time Rangers were coming, every time. And he didn't miss a trick, Paddy. He had so many opportunities, it was almost like the media were just teeing him up, and he always had the answers.
But I agree with you, and also saying these things at the right times as well. I spoke not that long ago about Celtic have been really quiet in terms of media access this year. They've kept everything in house. They know it's been a bit rocky in terms of the injuries, the form of some of our key players as well, and a media barrage basically from the very get go of the doubt that they had in this Celtic team. He mentioned at his press conference after the game on the 11th of May about this being the 3rd year of this squad and how difficult the 3rd year tends to be when you've brought new players in to breathe a bit of life into it, but also those that are now starting to maybe look elsewhere in their career as well. It's very difficult to get people to buy in. It's even harder when you're the new manager of that group as well. So keeping the way he has done, keeping everything in-house that way, I think has been key. he used the term, we've just been chipping away at it. And now, whether that's the belief of the team, whether that's the belief of that we're going to go on this run that we've went on in the final bits of the season, or whether that's just knowing I'll speak when I know when to speak. Not once did he direct any comment but to that manager. That manager came back biting every single time, because he has such a way with the media that it's enough to get heads turning, and it was enough to get them riled and put them off their game, in my opinion.
I also thought his comments about going through the motions, which I think were loosely aimed at Chris Sutton. You're absolutely spot on, Paddy, in terms of timing. You can't come out and say these things when the chips are down, when you're struggling, when you're losing points. The best time to deliver your point, James, is when you're on top and when you're winning. And he found the right way to do so at key opportunities through the season.
No more so than the 11th of May there. Just waited and then said, right, time to clap back. I mean, what I like about Sutton in that is that he's not scared to come out and criticise Celtic, but he's wrong on that one entirely. I think where he's kind of coming from, and we probably all saw a bit of this when there was Mark Law still in charge of recruitment and Rodgers didn't have control of that. I don't think he was enjoying it, because he was working with these players, not his first choice players, but as Asim said, they kind of the reserves, the kind of replacements that weren't good enough. And now that he's wrested that control back, you saw it in January once Mark Law was away, and I want to maintain on record that Law was given a terrible brief, almost a unwinnable brief. But once he was gone and Rodgers has control of that department, things did start to change. So I kind of see where something was coming from, but maybe just he didn't quite put it the right way. Yeah,
and there was lots of comment at the time, asked him about, and I think Miff asked the question, why has he come back? It doesn't make sense. He's not been supported in the right way. It doesn't look like he's enjoying it. And I think all of those things, to an extent, could have been true. But I think, as James says, and this isn't anything about Mark Lowell and what he done or didn't do, but it is evident that at the time where Mark Lowell stepped down and Rodgers got more control, almost immediately he started to look like he was more comfortable in his position, and it came across in his messaging. And I actually think now, and we'll get to this in future weeks and future shows, I think he's really excited for the challenge that he now faces. He's got this huge new opportunity in the Champions League. He'll have a big budget to play with, and I think he's as enthusiastic as he's been at any time in his Celtic journey.
He looks like a different man since January, February onwards. Just in his demeanour, his press conferences, everything that he's saying. He referenced it as being an awkward first 6 months, and I think that's the right kind of word. It was just strange, where nobody knew how to feel. Like you said, there were certain fans who just couldn't take to him, and then when the results weren't coming, it wasn't a great time, and you could see it. He wasn't enjoying it. He was always on the defensive, and then things did seem to change around about January, February onwards. You're right about the timing of his comments. Each time he did it, you felt you believed it. You felt he believed it, and that's where a lot of the trust came from myself and probably a lot of the other Celtic fans. Is you believe him when he says when he said, "I'll see you back in May." Even when we were going through the difficult times, you almost felt, this guy's going to get us through it. He's the right man for the job. And you're right, even just listening to him after the match on Saturday there and just in recent weeks, it feels like he genuinely is excited for what's to come. And I think a lot of the fans are, because I think we know that we've got a great manager, and if we give him the right tools, which we all hope will be the case now in the summer, exciting things can happen, and he's a man to take us forward.
Yeah, I think there's lots to get excited about. Paddy, in terms of the fan base as a whole, so I suppose to go back lightly to Anne's comments about Miff, on a scale of 1 to Miff, where are the fans on the support for Brendan Rodgers? Do you think there's still a small percentage that can't and maybe never will get on board?
Yeah, I think there always will be. There's a lot of people that love the idea of "I told you so" when something goes wrong. So if you've got those comments and he has a disaster of a season, it's perfect time to come out and say that at the end of it all. There's those that just have genuine hate towards how it all finished the first time, and I get that, I understand that, but I think that what we've seen this season has probably made up a few of our minds in terms of, well, what was he working with at the end of the first term? How difficult was it? By all means, there was talk about him going to China and taking Dembele with him, and I think that he is a very egotistical guy. I think he's driven to go and prove himself everywhere he goes, but also make as much money as he possibly can as well. But what I see here now is a bit more experience in terms of, hang on, what you have here is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think going forward this summer, I think he will be looking at what he can build. I think he'll be here for 3 years. I do. I think he'll go to the end of his contract, and we'll see where we're at that point. But I think he is excited about almost, for me, I would say, a bit of a rebuild for us as well this summer.
Yeah, it's for me, and as I say, we'll get to this in future weeks. It's not quite a full rebuild, but it's certainly a refresh. There's some elements we need to shake up, least of all the goalkeeper situation, amongst others. You mentioned as well kind of maybe the egotistical nature of Brendan Rodgers. I want my manager to Vigo. I want him to have that confidence, that borderline arrogance, that belief in himself, because you need that to operate at a club like Celtic. You've seen various other managers and players on both sides of the Glasgow divide actually fail, not because of lack of talent, but a lack of character and personality, and I don't think Brendan Rodgers lacks for that. James, in terms of his overall record, it looks better and better with each passing week, month, season. 3 league titles, 3 Scottish Cups, 3 League Cups. He has never lost a Scottish Cup tie, 17 games, 17 wins, and this record continues to update every time. He's lost just once in 18 games against Rangers, 1 in 14, drawn 3. How much confidence do you have that Brendan Rodgers is the man to take us forward, particularly in Europe?
Is Miff 0 and I'm in 10's top?
Go for it. There's the thing. I think Miff does grudgingly accept that he's a talented manager.
Miff's a football guy. He understands talent when he sees it. He just doesn't like the character, I suppose. No, he does. He's 100% the guy to take us forward. What I do want to see, I agree with Paddy, I think he's here for his 3 years, and then his stock will be hopefully as high as it can be, as in he's done good things for us, particularly in the Champions League. If he's back properly, we can actually do something, and I mean just stay in it.
Yeah.
This year and get into the playoffs, and then who knows, kind of thing. But to do that, he's going to have to affect the changes that he really wants Celtic to take on. And I know we laugh and joke about my season ticket and blah blah blah, but structural change at Celtic is the only way that we're going to be successful into the future. Rodgers knows how to do that. Let him do it. Let him find it. Even if if the broader Celtic team is involved in the recruitment of these people, let Rodgers sketch out how it should look, how the recruitment team should look, how the talent team, how the youth then feeds into that. We've got just good stuff happening at Barrafield past it the other day. It's really coming on. So you're starting to really get your centre of excellence for youth. But the numbers we get out of that at the moment are woeful.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the machine, but it starts with this recruitment structure and talent structure. Let Rodgers do that, and we could be well away in a couple of years' time.
I mentioned fairly recently that when Ange was in the building, he was a de facto director of football, as well as being the manager and the media spokesperson and everything else that he brought to the table. And I think while you've got talent like that in the building, you must tap into it in every possible sense. Brendan Rodgers' primary focus, of course, is winning games of football, winning league titles, winning Scottish Cups and everything else that goes with it. But I think Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay and the various other top level execs there, they've got to be speaking to Brendan Rodgers and saying, what should this part of the football department look like? How can we set up for the day that you leave? Because we've always had this situation in recent times where, whether it's Ange leaving or any other manager, you lose the whole department almost. The whole thing breaks down and then you're starting again. That cannot be the way. You can't have this boom-bust kind of cycle where you're having to rebuild every single time a coach moves on.
Sorry to interrupt. I was talking to a Liverpool fan, Callie, during the week, asked him how he's feeling about Arne Slot and is he going to be back and all that stuff. He said, delighted with the manager. He said it's not really about him being back. He's going to have next to zero input on transfers. There's a structure all there for him, and he's just going to. He might have a final kind of casting eye over things, but he's not going out scouting guys, doing negotiations. None of that. He can concentrate on coaching players, and making them better.
That's interesting though, because I think Brendan Rodgers worked under the same remit at Liverpool. He famously had a transfer committee that gave him players he didn't particularly want. Did he get Balotelli and a few others? But
I wonder if that changes depending on how well the manager. So Klopp obviously built after about 3-4 years may have just had a bit much more input on selecting specific players. Especially when you're at a club like Liverpool, you could probably handpick someone that he's played against and be like, I want that guy. Or whereas I think when you first come into a club, it's a bit different if they've got that structure in place. But it's something we spoke about for Celtic for years, about having a director of football, so that each time a manager goes, as you say, it's not a rebuild from top to bottom, and that's what it felt like with Ange. I remember your podcast with Anthony Joseph, and he said as much as well.
Yeah,
that Ange basically took on every single role there was. So as soon as he left, you're really having to start all over again. And Rodgers' main kind of skill set is his coaching and his man management. It isn't probably in terms of scouting or picking players. That we need to, like James says, it needs to be a proper structural change so that we can actually get the best out of him.
Yeah, succession planning in any big business is important. In Celtic, our big business, and I'd like to think and hope that there's some pragmatic conversations, some adult conversations about the fact that Brendan Rodgers won't be here forever. It might be the 3 years, Paddy, it might be longer, it might be shorter, who knows? And you've got to plan for what's next. Celtic, a club like Celtic, always need to look at what's next. A few things just to rattle through before we close out this opening section. Record books wise, and there's all sorts going on here, but the win on Saturday means Celtic have now won the Scottish Cup a record 42 times. It was also the club's 118th major honour, which obviously includes the Big Cup, the European Cup, which was won 57 years ago to the day from Saturday's win, 25th of May 67, of course. We've now lifted the Scottish Premiership, James, 54 times. Hashtag going for 55 into that.
Get the PR team involved.
This season's league title was our 12th league title in 13 years. We've spoken about the merits of it in terms of the ups and downs and stuff. And Paddy, you said it's not a season that you look back on with great delight, and I said the opposite. I've loved it. I think I've loved it, and as I say it, it's all good saying this now, but the up and down nature of it, and obviously coming out on top, I think it's been a roller coaster, but in the most positive sense.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't disagree with you on that. I'm just of the opinion just of the standards that we've set over the last 8 years since Rodgers' first spell, and I think that you're mentioning about the transfer system at Liverpool. In terms of bringing players in that the scouting team have found. We had a manager in January that was given a list and said no.
He had the control.
He had the control. Yeah. So I think that that these are the little things that I want ironed out for us just to continue as a team. I will remember this season in terms of it's brilliant. It's been a great run to the end to go and lift the league title, and it's been even sweeter, as I said yesterday, to go and win the Scottish Cup the way we did. But it's definitely a season where questions will have to be asked of the board, and eyebrows were definitely raised, in my opinion, as well.
I'd agree with that. Just a final question to all three of you in terms of the motivation for this group of players. So, put more succinctly, how does this group of players continue to motivate themselves year on year on year? Celtic have collected, I think, 7 of the last 9 domestic trophies available. And, you get the question, you always get the question as a Celtic fan, does that not get a bit boring? Nope. Right? But from a player's point of view, how do you regroup, reset, refocus for the challenge ahead? And there's a great quote from Callum McGregor, I think it was after the cup final, while still in the park. He said, "We've got to push on. We want to get our other trophy back now as well, the League Cup. This is a club we play for. After the celebrations, everyone will be saying, right, what's happening next season, and how can we get stronger?" And Asim, that for me in a nutshell is the big difference between Celtic and Rangers. You've just won the double. What a day. Everyone's buzzing. I want my League Cup trophy back.
Epitomised by McGregor. How brilliant is he? Honestly, every time I hear him speak, you're just in awe, because I think he's a brilliant captain in every way. The way he leads on the pitch, the way he talks, the way he conducts himself, by all accounts, the way he trains, everything about him demands a high standards, and that's summed up by that quote. Like, you've seen that the people talk about, do you get bored of winning? You've seen the scenes of the fans, you see the scenes of the players. Of course not, and it's that's what will keep them driving on. Moments like that. You look at Idah, he looked like he was tearing up, and when they were in the huddle. That's what these players live for.
Him and me both.
The scenes were just brilliant, and the players will want more of that. The key is to freshen things up as well, though. That's the thing, as we all say, the third year when you've got a squad that's been there throughout, you need to freshen up, keep them on their toes. Like Kyogo, who've now won 3 years in a row, 7 trophies. You have to, and the manager, that's what he'll be demanding as well. And obviously we've got this new European format of the Champions League. Mm-hmm. That's going to excite a lot of players that we might be trying to attract, the players that are still here. We've got plenty to try and keep everyone motivated. But that winning feeling, it never gets boring, and anyone who's played football at any level will tell you that.
James Asa makes a good point about guys like Kyogo being a great example. Someone who's been here for the full 3 years since Ange came in the door till Saturday there, winning 7 trophies. There's a bundle of players that fall into that category actually. How do those players stay switched on for the challenges of next campaign?
I think the biggest thing is what Asim said, it's the kind of Paddy Roberts, James Forrest effect. So having someone, there's a lot of signings required. There's a lot of dead wood to go out. The way I see it is a lot of players that are currently first choice will become second choice, and guys who are second choice will become zero choice. So there's that kind of level of refreshment. But if you drop from first choice to second choice, then you've got the incentive to drive and take that jersey back. You know, there's been plenty of examples of that over the years. James Forrest himself to this very day.
Yep.
So I think that's where it's going to come from, the drive, but also the Champions League, in terms of getting yourself on the biggest version of the biggest stage of world football. You know, it's just massive for all players. The slight concern I have is we'll probably lose one or two that we don't want to lose. You know, there might be a Rio Hatate and Alistair Johnson. Nobody wants to lose Matt O'Reilly, but it's maybe the mature thing to do, all that stuff. So it's who's left, how is that augmented by additional talent, and how do we have this squad ready for the Champions League? But, you know, going on and going from a double this year to a treble next year, there's a driver for you already.
True, and we might go on a wee bit more of the who stays, who goes a wee bit later in the piece if time allows. As mentioned, the full Scottish Cup final reaction show from a slightly hungover myself and Paddy is available now at thecelticexchange.com or on the Celtic Exchange YouTube channel. In terms of coming up this week on the Celtic Exchange, couple more special shows. So on Wednesday at 12 noon, we're going to release part 9 of the Battle to Save Celtic with Jock Brown, no less. Fairly controversial time when he was here at Celtic. 510 days precisely, that's the name of his book, 510 Days in Paradise, from June 1997. Nobody, James, worked as closely with Fergus McCann as Jock Brown, and there's some great stories and some great insights. Covered some really key personalities as well during that time. Wim Janssen, Di Canio, Cadete, Larson, Moravchik, Joe Venglos, and a whole lot more. So that's Wednesday at 12 noon, Battle to Save Celtic Part 9. On Friday, also at 12 noon, another special episode with Murdo McLeod, a man who made a habit of winning league titles with Celtic on the very last day of the season. This includes one of your favourites, James, Love Street 86, but there's also his goal the night 10 men won the league in 1979, and he obviously played a huge part in stopping the 10 with Wim Janssen in 1998. So a special episode with Murdo McLeod coming out on Friday. Access to all of our shows can be found at thecelticexchange.com, and a reminder to subscribe to us on the likes of Apple, Spotify and on YouTube to ensure you don't miss a single episode. Plus, if you want to show your support for what we do here at the Celtic Exchange, like Danny Marley, Stephen Devlin and Eileen McLeod, then please take a minute to visit thecelticexchange.supercast.com, where you can do so from just £1.50 per month. £1.50, Paddy, what's that?
It's £1.50.
£1.50. That's a bottle of water. It's pennies. So if you want to support us, jump on the celticexchange.supercast.com and take a look there. We've also got a whole host of special episodes planned across the summer. So even though Celtic are taking a break, we aren't. And on that note, let's take a short break, but just a very short one. When we come back, we'll take a look at the man who wrote himself into Celtic's history books at Hampden on Saturday. Welcome back, folks. Adam Idah's strike on the 90th minute on Saturday means he'll forever be remembered in Celtic's history, but Asim, does he go down as potentially our best ever loan signing? What do you think?
Well, the two other ones that often get talked about were Robbie Keane and Craig Bellamy, but both seasons ended pretty disappointingly. So in terms of impact, you look at he scored at Ibrox a crucial goal, he scored the winning goal in a cup final to clinch a double, 2 late winners in 2 crucial away games at Fir Park and Easter Road, which were monumental in keeping our season alive at that stage when it was crumbling. So, 9 goals I think it is. Yes. Playing essentially as second fiddle, that performance at Rugby Park, probably one of the best individual performances of the season. Yeah, for me, I think he does, in terms of impact, at a time where we really needed it. Everyone in January, myself included, when we were linked with him and he was coming in, we're just a bit unsure given the profile, and I think we were linked with Van Hooijdonk, weren't we? And I don't think he scored a single goal for Norwich. So fair play to Idah. He's came in and just fully embraced the challenge. He looks like he's loving every minute. And when Giacomakis left, everyone thought like a void was left, and O didn't quite live up to that. I think in Idah we've got someone could be equally as effective or even better. He's a lot younger. He looks like he's hungry to succeed. He's happy to be here. He's happy to play his role as essentially being the second striker, but he'll be confident he can try and take that role next season if he stays. So if the figures that we're talking about are 5 to 6 million, I think it's a no-brainer and we get him in, because you're right, I think he could be labelled as one of our best ever loan signings.
Do you know, in terms of what being backup striker for Celtic potentially looks like, we've spoken about the Champions League, the new format. There's a guaranteed minimum of 8 games there, plus everything else the domestic calendar throws at you, 38 league games, however many Scottish Cup League Cup games. There's a lot of football to be played. And back in the day, if you were the second choice striker, you come off the bench now and then and that was your thing. Yeah. Such as the modern game now, squad rotation dictates that your backup striker, inverted commas, will have to start a fair number of games as well. And I think Adam Idah, at 23 years of age, can potentially appreciate that. He's also, Norwich are big in their own right in terms of their own level, Championship, bottom of Premier League type, ballpark. But whether it's Idah or Joe Hart or Matt O'Reilly, so many figures come up here from down south and are absolutely blown away by the size of the club. And you don't have to remind Idah, a lad from Cork, how big Celtic are. But I think, as you said, an emotional time for him. What a moment for him on Saturday. And I think he's just embracing everything that Celtic are throwing. You'll have heard these comments. He said he's always followed the club, he's always loved the club, and let's see what happens. Just in terms of his fact, Phil, Paddy, so 23 years of age, he's got 24 caps for the Republic of Ireland. Asim's bang on with his goal return. So in 19 appearances, he's got 9 goals and 2 assists. So 11 goal contributions, to use the modern terminology there. And of those 9 goals, 7 of them have been away from home, which in itself is interesting. And they're huge, the away goals in particular. It's the 2 goals at Hibs, his first 2 goals for Celtic, both penalties. It's the 2 at Fir Park, which eventually got us just in the nick of time, a 3-1 win over Motherwell. The 3rd goal against Rangers, which got us that 3-each draw. Scoring and dominating that night against Kilmarnock that we won the league. And absolutely the winner on Saturday. He's a big game player.
He seems to be. And he's not getting a full 90 minutes every game. And he's still producing the goods. I think great determination for a guy that's... I think he probably knew the remit coming up here, that he wasn't going to start every game, and I think he thought, right, let's see what I can do in this time and try and see if we could get a deal with Celtic. And my God, what a return from him. And just, as you've mentioned, the goals that he scored there, how important they've been in the turnaround for us. It's a no-brainer for me. I think he can only get better. I really do.
But that's a big question in a nutshell, James. Should Celtic be pushing the boat out to make Idah our first big summer signing?
Yeah, but I think that's the biggest thing about him. He's got space to grow. You can see with him, he's got raw talent, he's got great feet, he's really strong back to goal. I think even beyond Giakoumakis, he's got that being able to get you up the pitch stuff that Giakoumakis was good at. He's better at it. But the biggest thing is he's not finished yet. You can see there's just a rawness there. And with Brendan Rodgers and his team around him, I think you can make him a real top-class player. In terms of the games he'll play, it's not just that he'll come on in a lot of games and he'll get a bit of rotation and stuff. He is more suited to certain games than Kyogo is, as simple as that. Mm-hmm. Kilmarnock's won, Dundee's won, various others throughout the league will be the same, Ross County and whatever. So he'll get, if there's going to be 38 SPFL games and 8 Champions League plus Cup, he's probably looking at starting about 25 games a season. So it's not like he's going to feel like he's second string, second fiddle there. So I think we'll be good for him and he'd be great for us.
You've also got to look at the fact that he is an international footballer and a well-established. He's not like he's got 3-4 caps coming off the bench. He's got 24 caps at 23 years of age. And I think that in itself should automatically give a player a wee bit of respect and a bit of recognition. And I'm going to take a short segue to talk about Liam Scales, because I think the lack of respect being shown to Liam Scales is creeping into out of order stuff from our own fan base. I think Liam Scales very potentially has his limitations as a footballer, but he's an international footballer. He's won a league and a Scottish Cup title with Celtic. He's played 6 Champions League games, and there's guys in the booze are saying I'm a better player than Liam Scales and all that stuff. Unacceptable. He might not be the future, but while somebody's wearing a green and white top, I think a lot more respect should be shown to them. And Liam Scales is a heart on sleeve kind of player, and he deserves all the credit coming for what he's achieved. Whatever it will be beyond this season, but he deserves more respect in my opinion. Let's go back to Idah. Rant over, aye. International striker. What I was going to say is it's clear, looking at his goal on Saturday, it's clear he's been very well coached, whether it's international level or is coming through as a youth. His movement before the goal, people think, he just got a rebound and tapped it in under the goalkeeper. He goes one way, which throws Leon Balogun off, and it's that split-second movement, and it's quite instinctive. He's obviously been coached and knows how to do it. Throws off Balogun, which leaves him in acres for the resultant, palming out from Jack Butland, and he's there to crack it in. And he's got to control the finish. It's coming out at a bit of pace and it's bouncing around. Jack Butland does some sort of Superman over the ball, and he smashed it in beyond him. And Paddy, he's clearly got a lot of natural ability, but by the looks of it, he's been coached, and he seems quite a grounded guy who'd be willing to listen and learn from a guy like Brendan Rodgers.
I think so. You speak about raw talent there, James. I know exactly what you mean, but I do think he's got all the attributes. I really do. And for a big guy, he's quick. He's really, really fast. And I just think you even see that. I know Balogun's getting on a little bit, but he's one of the quicker players as well.
Did he sign a new deal today?
He did. He did.
No, he
aye.
didn't,
The
did he?
rebuild begins.
Oh man,
But you sounded upset there, James.
just what are they all about?
Listen, it's not their show. We're here to talk about Big Adam.
Delighted with that.
I just think his movement off the ball is very clever. I think he's done it a few times this season. He can see where it's going to go, and I think that he's probably screaming for the pass at that point from Bernardo. But as I said yesterday, Bernardo's every right to take the shot on. One of the first shots that we've seen from is as well on target and made Butland work. But yeah, you don't get the head down, you don't moan, you don't say, "Oh, he's hit it, I'm stopping." You keep going like every good striker does.
Well, staying on side,
Aye.
it would have been easy to stray offside. He's 6'3", he's just a big, powerful guy, but he's got many assets to what he does. So I think, to go back to the question, Asim's given his answer, lads, in terms of our greatest loan signing ever. There's quite a few guys in there. I was looking at a list of our loanees over the years. Certainly falling into the good category would be Craig Bellamy, Robbie Keane, talented guys, but what did they win, Paddy? And that's what you're judged on. What did you win? I liked El Younousi. I thought he was a talented guy. Patrick Roberts, you mentioned. Jason Denier, very effective for Celtic. You've got the other side of that coin. You've got John Joe Kenny, Oliver Burke, Diego Laxalt, Wakaso. Nat Phillips.
This season, can you imagine?
But anyone else that you guys would care to mention that's been particularly impactful?
If you look at the loans that became signings, it starts to get a bit more interesting. So you get Fraser Forster, Arthur Boris. Boris was a loan, was it, at one point?
Yes, Jota, Carter Vickers. So
Yeah.
I'm taking them out of that equation. Anyone that became a permanent signing, different story.
But
in
he's
terms of
going to
just-
become a permanent signing.
Well, we don't know.
I
At
would
time
do.
of going to
I would
print, all that stuff. Anyone else, Paddy, jump out that you think might be competing with them in terms of the impact they've had?
Yeah, no one I've noted at the moment. I think the two that we've had for that 6-month period that have left, he's definitely the standout for me. He really
Bellamy
is.
was different class in terms of like
talent.
And even just how good he was for us when he came. It was just unfortunate the way obviously it didn't end up. He deserved single like some of. I remember it was a performance at
Didn't he?
Tannadice.
Yeah.
His goal at home to Aberdeen. Bellamy was brilliant, but you always remember it how the season ended, don't you? And that's where Idah will go down in history regardless. Now we'll always remember that cup final.
Yeah.
The last one was 22 years ago. Against them. So yeah, I honestly really excited about Idah. I just think he's got so much to his game that I know I keep banging on about that Rugby Park performance, but it was electric. The pace, power. So yeah, I think he's up there, and I hope it is our main signing.
And with him on that kind of surface as well at Rugby Park, like we rarely see Celtic try and play the ball over the top into our strikers. We don't tend to do it an awful lot.
Yeah.
That was a perfect out ball for us anytime we were under pressure, and I just thought he dealt with it so easily. And again, that pace, that strength gave them all sorts of problems.
What I liked about it is they weren't playing the balls beyond the fullbacks or beyond the centre halves. He was dropping in, back to goal, holding them off, and it was getting clipped in by the likes of Greg Taylor or Alistair Johnson. He was holding up, allowing his midfield to get forward, and it just worked perfectly. And it was a tweak to the strategy that we usually deploy when Kyogo plays. And you always need to have you can have your master plan, but you can have deviations on that allow you to play the circumstances. And I think Adam Idah gives you just so many different options. You mentioned Craig Bellamy. Is he about to become assistant manager at Bayern Munich?
That's right.
Is that the chat?
Under
assistant.
Vincent Company.
How's Company getting that gig as well?
Mad, isn't it? And they're paying for him. They're paying 12 million quid for him.
I don't understand the modern managerial merry-go-round at that top level. There's just strange stuff going on, and Xavi at Barcelona, and who's the ex-Bayern Munich, the guy that's about to walk out, Thomas Tuchel. They find out they're going to lose their job 6 months before they lose it and all that stuff. They agree in January, I'm going to
You
finish.
see Maresca's off to Chelsea.
Is he taking it?
It looks like it's looking very like.
I need to turn the telly on. I've not a clue at all.
A man once linked with Celtic not that long ago. Just in terms of, to finish off the piece on loan signings, you're absolutely right, James.
Charlie Musonda.
What could have been? Geez, who's that Australian guy we've got just now?
Tilio.
Marco Tilio. We'll see what happens. But people often dismiss the loan market. I remember, in fact, almost every transfer window you'll get people saying, not another loan signing, not another loan signing. Adam Idah tells you that loan signings can be impactful. I very much want to make these loan signings, when they are effective, become a longer term part of the project. And you've got guys you've mentioned, Jota and Carter Vickers are the best example. You bring these guys in, they give you it all for 12 months, they themselves get regular football, and phenomenal platform to show their talents. And then if you can make that permanent, it's a great move for all concerned. I suppose the issue might be that Adam Idah has impressed so much, he's getting more potential suitors. You could end up in a bidding war for him, or Norwich might say, hold on a minute here, we've had you as backup striker, you've got far much more to offer. So there's pluses and minuses of the loan strategy.
The Norwich one, they need to cut their cloth. So, they didn't go up, so now they need to trim their squad to make themselves a bit more efficient. I think the former, what you said is, guys who've just gone into the Premiership, or guys who just stayed up, we're kind of filtering around the bottom end, they'll be a challenge. I think we can afford what they would also pay for them, but if they're going to offer them 60, 70 grand a week, that's life-changing stuff for a guy like Idah. Whereas we're going to be, for someone of that profile, 20. Do you know what I mean? It's very Celtic-y. And that's the reality where we are, and I'm not slagging Celtic for that, because we need to make the numbers work. So
there was no option to buy, which was a strange one at the time.
I think it was because it came so late in the day, and we needed him. We absolutely needed a striker like that.
Just on that, where would we be without him? Because we were relying on Kyogo, who's had a decent season, not a phenomenal season, but a decent season, pretty good goal return. But it was Kyogo and that wouldn't have got us over the line, would it?
No.
The Hibs and Motherwell, take those two. It was just alone,
Yeah. Paddy, what do you think in general just about utilising the loan market? Is it something that a club of Celtic size and stature can use very effectively to end up getting... I mean, Jota's I would say that's a lot, a once in a lifetime talent. I thought he was a phenomenal player for Celtic. Carter Vickers again on Saturday, and almost, every time when asked upon, shows just how important he is to this Celtic side. And you wouldn't have got those two guys if you'd have just gone straight in with bids. We couldn't have afforded them at the time, but the loan to buy option seems to have worked well in our favour.
Absolutely. I think, I'm quick to have a go in terms of our signing policies, in terms of our scouting policies when we're going and signing players outright. It is a model that's worked for us. You look
Just try before you buy. Orson Edward.
Absolutely, yeah. Edward, another one for us. And I think that it is manufacturing the right deal. Yes, it seems to be that when we are doing that, the teams that we're dealing with are very much to say, if he does sign for you, we're taking a sell on for the next move, because they've got high hopes for them. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it with potentially Bernardo as well, and I think he is one for me that I would push the button on and bring to the club as well. It's going to continue. We will keep doing it. It's what we're talking about, maybe moving up this next level of spending 8, 9, 10 million pounds a player. That's how Celtic do that. Is bringing a player in first, getting a good look at them, and then saying, right, are we parting with the money? And I think that it makes sense for us to do it. We can't go and overspend. We can't do it because we just don't live in a league that provides us enough competition winning money, TV money. We're relying solely on Europe, and we're losing automatic qualification next season as well. So it is a market that works for us.
And I think Jota, Carter Vickers, Orson Edward, they give you the confidence that if you spend that money, you're pushing about 6 million, still a lot of money for Celtic as it happens, as is 9 million. But you spend that kind of money and you see exactly what it can do for you, just in the case of those three examples.
There's no clearer examples. Look at the success that all three players have had with it for us, and we've made profit on two of them, massive profit on Jota. So I think it's a no-brainer that when you aim a wee bit higher, you're going to get better quality. And obviously it doesn't always work. You look at the obvious examples in recent years with Barkas and Ayeti, but it's just poor decision making and a bit of bad luck as well. But I wonder, are we going to break our transfer record this summer?
We thought they would last summer.
We all thought that.
Mugged me right off, man.
I think you thought they were going to break it twice.
That was the rumours, wasn't
15 million for this guy and 16 for him, and aye.
But I think it's time. You look at, and I think it's, the wise thing would be for us to invest that Matt O'Reilly money. Like, I know people are talking about, can we keep him, build a team around him? In an ideal world, yes. But again, if you're sensible about it, you can use that money really wisely. Buy 3 or 4 players, £6-7 million each, and just spread that across the team. Mm-hmm. Spread that quality across the team, because if it meant keeping Matt O'Reilly and then not doing that and just doing the usual £2-3 million to buy a left back, and it's still not going to make our team any stronger, then there's no point. There's only point in keeping Matt O'Reilly if you're going to use that and show him that we're actually ambitious enough to get players of a similar quality to him around him. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we really need to go out and spend big this summer.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of the potential exits, in various shapes and forms towards the end of the piece, but it's an interesting one. Last question for this section, and you mentioned him, Paddy, and rightfully so. Paulo Bernardo, my own position on him before Saturday's game, not so sure. Give the man a 6-year deal is my new position, and I suppose it shows the kind of how fickle fans can be, aiming that Premier like myself, because he had such an impact, and he's still a very young man, and he showed that ability to go and be a game changer. I speak often about the guys that change games. He has shown that he can be that guy, and his composure, his ability, that drive and run, and his shot with a bit of movement on it is what creates the winner in a Scottish Cup final.
Yeah, and it's not just been that game though, Tino. I think the little rut that we were in December after the defeat against Hearts, and he was given an opportunity, he was given a few starts, had a good performance up in Dundee, and then had a great game against Rangers at Celtic Park. And I think that, he's chipped in. That's been his contribution. To kind of be sitting and waiting, and we spoke about some of the left field decisions from Rodgers, let's say, in terms of you're not part of the team this week. You've done it with Yang, but yeah, you're going to be starting against Lazio, and then again Bernardo was put in against Atletico Madrid. They're not up to speed yet, so you're putting a lot of pressure onto these guys, whether it was having to do that through choice, through no choice because of injuries. It's still a lot of pressure. You've just moved to this team, you're learning everything about it, and I still think that in every game I've seen him play, I think he's held his own.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he's a very comfortable footballer.
He was also excellent against St Mirren around about that festive time where him and O'Reilly linked up. I think they both got a goal and an assist each, which was important. Just final question on then for yourself, James and Asim. Bernardo, yes, no?
I think the answer is yes, but it's, much like my comments on Idah, he's got space to grow. Mm-hmm. But I think he captains under 21s Portugal, didn't he?
Does.
So he's got something about him. His notable contribution on Saturday was obviously, setting up the goal with his just driving and taking the shot and not taking the foul. Just, I'm going to ride that and I'm going to drive. But his tackling from the moment he came on till the end of the game, breaking up, and sadly it was just a sea change from what we were getting from Hatate in that game. He's just not got back up to speed after his injury and stuff, and that's fine. But Bernardo really showed you why he should have been on earlier on. So there's enough of the core elements there with him, and he does need coaching, but he also needs games.
Yeah.
And as we've said about Idah and Kyogo, there's a lot of games coming up next season, so he's going to have the space to develop his talent in the first team as well. So it's a yes for me. If not him, then who? You're going to have to go out for an unknown quantity, spend the same or more. So it's him for me.
That is it. He is now a known quantity. You know what he's got, and as a midfielder, he's got a lot of the assets you need going forward, and a lot defensively, as you've mentioned there. Asim, is he a guy you want to see us bring on board?
I'm like you, it's kind of fluctuated throughout the season. I think the frustration was around about, after that December spell, he didn't really kick on. And when we came back from the winter break, I think it came at the wrong time for him, because when he came back, he just didn't seem to cement in that place again. But you don't captain in Portugal under 21s for no reason, and I think we've seen that in the big games. The Champions League games, he was one of our better players against Rangers. He's played well. I think his off the ball work's brilliant. And going forward, I think he can still improve. Like you said, I think there's a lot of potential there. And like you, Paddy, anytime I see him, I'm always like, he's got something. Technically, he's good. His work rate's good. So I think the next season, when he maybe becomes more of a prominent feature, and he's like, we can say he's the main man, I still think we need to replace Matt O'Reilly, because the goals and assists that he gets, I don't think that's Bernardo's game as much. But I definitely think he can be a strong part of that midfield. So I would say yeah.
Yeah, some big calls to make on both Adam Idah and Paulo Bernardo. Let's see what Celtic decide. Let's take another short break. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest instalment of the Mystery Voice. Welcome back, folks. Last week's Mystery Voice was another man who deserves his place in Celtic history as a man who scored the goal to win as the league in Martin O'Neill's first season. James' answer was, of course,
Paulo Bernardo. Tommy Johnson.
Tommy Johnson, very popular guy. Signed for $2.4 million in March 97. Tommy Burns must have signed him as one of his last signings. He scored that league winner at the end of the 2000-2001 campaign. He also scored a goal in a League Cup final win over Aberdeen in 2000, and he got a medal when we stopped at 10 in the 97-98 season. He did struggle with injuries though, and even though he played under Tommy Burns, Wim Jansen, Joe Venglos, John Barnes, Kenny Dalglish and Martin O'Neill, he only managed 35 league games during that time, which I suppose tells its own story. But he did still scored 18 goals, so over 1 and 2 per game. James, your initial thoughts on Tommy Johnson?
I thought as a talent. He had it. He definitely had it. He had a real instinct in front of goals, and he was a fan's favourite. He seemed such a likeable character as well, both by his teammates and by the fans. But you know, it's a tale as old as football itself that injuries can hamper, you know, and it's just very sad that it did. But yeah, somebody I remember fondly.
Yeah, and you might have seen him. He spoke, I think it was on the kind of Celtic Legends podcast type thing. Speaks very highly of the club and his time here, Paddy.
Yeah, he seemed to be loved by all as well. I think him and Henry were very close when he was at the club, and I think good memories of him. I think I just loved playing for the club, and I remember a goal against Livingston, or was it St Mirren?
St Mirren.
Apologies, to win the league. And you're just, yeah, he's done well for himself at the club, and I think that he'll always have a place for us in his heart, I'm sure, as we will for him.
There's a strange one. Was he not, him and Larsson, going to take Southend or something? Larsson was going to be the manager, Tommy Johnson was going to be like head of recruitment or director of football.
Involved as well somewhere. Yeah.
And it didn't quite work out, but Larsson wanted Tommy Johnson to be the guy. Asim, your own thoughts on Tommy Johnson?
I forever remember him for that St Mirren goal. It wasn't a great game, but I remember being there, and it was just it was their sheer relief, because obviously it was our first title in a few years, Martin O'Neill's first season, and like you said, just a likeable guy. I think he was unfortunate with injuries, and we just had a lot of good strikers at that point. Obviously in Martin O'Neill's kind of first season and second seasons, with Hartson coming in as well. So he always played a solid part though. Anytime he used to come on, you knew you could rely on him for a goal or two. But yeah, I think that's what most fans will remember him for, that St Mirren 1-0 winner.
Yeah, popular character. So good luck to Tommy Johnson, whatever he's up to. Let's take a listen at this week's Mystery Voice.
Boy, went to St Denis's and St Mary's, and my dad used to take me along regular when I was a young kid. So then I started to get into playing football roughly about 11, 12 years of age. So that's when it all became a wee bit more serious, and I took it from there. But I'm an East End boy, and Celtic through and through.
Tush.
Anybody? Tosh McKinley? Nope. Yep.
Oh,
You've got it.
Well done, Paddy.
What gave it away for you, Paddy?
Listening to the pod you done with him, I just remember that voice. Aye.
Yeah, quite a topical one, so we'll cover more of that in next week's show. But as always, answer will be beeped out in the meantime. We'll also reshare the clip on the socials for anyone who wants to have a go there. To close out the show, and it's an area we've kind of touched on to an extent, and as mentioned, we'll carry out a lot more detail in terms of squad analysis in the coming weeks. But if Celtic, and the question to you lads is, if Celtic were to address just one key position for the season ahead, what should that be? With a huge caveat that we know the goalkeeper is a key position, with Joe Hart moving on. Come to you first, Paddy.
I think we need another centre half. I do. And I think it's just...
Did I not tell you to show some respect to Liam Scales?
It's Carter Vickers, he needs to go. I'm kidding on. No, listen, I'm with you on the Scales side of things, in terms of he deserves the respect for this season. There are moments in games where we see the defensive qualities of Liam Scales. I've yet just to see the attacking side, and we play football, and I just don't think he's at that level required. I'm taking nothing away from his season. I really, really mean that, and I know that we're not going to always be playing football in European games, but if we've got a back line that's comfortable bringing the ball out, it gives us a chance, in my opinion, because we've got very attacking minded midfielders and our forward line as well. And those were a little moments I was seeing all throughout the season, that teams were really, really giving the left-hand side all the time in the world with the ball, and it was slowing us down far too much. A big factor in some of our performances this season. Roger stuck with him. I understand why. I think he was the fittest out of those available, and yeah, he was loyal to him as well. And take nothing away from Liam Scales, but I do think we need an upgrade. Yeah,
and I think that's very fairly put, Paddy. I don't think many would disagree with that. Asim, your own priority position?
I think a winger for me still, because you look at I know we've got a plethora of them, but I don't know if a lot of them are up to it. You look at Palma. Do I write him off completely? But I tell you something, he went big on the celebrations, didn't he? He's front and centre of every picture. That's what I think. He loves a party. He's having fun. He's enjoying himself, and that's how he plays his football as well. But I don't know if he's got that hunger, that real winning mentality, in terms of just wanting to really improve as a player. And saying that, I think his work rate's improved in the last few weeks that I've seen him. So that's that's something to be said, because he's taken that on board. Yeah, I think he's due another chance. But you look at the combination of Yang, Palma, Forrest, obviously we've been delighted with, but again, he's going to be another year older next season. How much he's going to contribute, we don't know. He can still play a part, but he's not going to be, starting a lot of games for us, I don't imagine. Maeda's Maeda, and Kuhn, again, give him time, but I don't think there's that immediate guy that's going to come in and make us, from that lot, it's going to make us a really strong team and someone for European teams to fear the way we may have had previously. So I think for me, a winger's going to be priority. Someone, I spoke about it before, but we were linked with Daniel Podence.
Yes.
And he's about to play in a Conference League final and has been a major part in getting Olympiacos to that final on Wednesday. He's the kind of profile of player that I think we need, someone that can come in straight away, an experienced player, play at high level, and will instantly make us better.
What were the figures doing the round? So he went from Wolves to Olympiacos. Was it maybe 7, 8, 9 million?
Under 10.
That's the money we should be spending for that kind of quality. Interesting, various wingers, you're right. And I mentioned Marco Tilio still out on loan, Mikey Johnson still out on loan, a few other guys to come back. But Kuhn is a guy that Brendan Rodgers seems to trust, so much so that he's thrown him on at nothing each in a Scottish Cup final. Your short description of Maeda's Maeda. That's as accurate a way to put it, but that is Maeda. There's no need to dwell on it. Maeda's Maeda. But yeah, have we nailed down? Celtic need 4 high quality wingers, 2 for each side, and we've probably just a bit short of that at this moment in time, so I can absolutely see the argument. James, what about yourself? As I say, out with the goalie, and hopefully the club are either in the process or have already tied up a new goalkeeper. Who do you think, or where do you think the priority position should be?
I mean, I feel harsh saying it because I've really enjoyed his attitude and his characters. It's Greg Taylor. I think he's been one of those that's really dragged us across the line this season. I think it's been immense, But you do notice that teams target our vulnerable area, and it is that left hand side. Paddy's fixed the centre half for us, so I'm going to fix the left back spot.
Very kind.
So, I wouldn't be, throwing Taylor out with the bathwater. I'd want him to stay and challenge and push whoever comes in. But I would be looking to sign a first 11 left back, physical, fast, can overlap, can hit the byline, can cross, all of these things. Rodgers knows exactly what he wants in a left back. He gets some of it from Taylor, but maybe not just everything,
I think ultimately you want to get to that position as a club where you've got 2 quality options for every position. It's become cliche, but that's where you want to reach, and we're not at that level at this moment in time, but there's a huge opportunity in the summer to do so. Obviously we're talking about players that may well come in positions that we may well find cover for, but you can't discount the fact that some may be going the other way. We've talked about Matt O'Reilly. Paddy, you've got some concerns over Kyogo and Reo Hatate, for example. So who do you think, Paddy, might be the guys that we do lose in the summer?
I'm more worried about just who's performed well and who is really, really, caught attention for other teams. And I think that Kyogo has not been at his best this season. Having said that, his scoring record in this run has been absolutely brilliant. I think that there's maybe something in him thinking, what else can I do? I'm going to be 30 this year. I think, he might look to leave. Hatate, I think, wanted to leave last year, and I still think he'll probably try and push that this year, this summer. The other one, I just think he's been really, really strong for us in the second half of the season is Alistair Johnston, and I think that there will be clubs looking at Johnston, but he seems to be loving it here. He seems to love every moment of it. So I'm a little bit unsure on that one in terms of other players than O'Reilly. I've still got a weird feeling O'Reilly's going to stay. I just have this. I don't know. I think he's really enjoying it, and I think he'll look at the chance he'll have in Europe next season with us and think, well, one more year of this. Yeah. Why not?
Just to pick up on a couple of things. I mean, if Johnson goes and has a big Euros with Canada, we could lose him. There'll be offers coming in, so that's obviously a concern. But in terms of Matt O'Reilly, so I don't know if I mentioned on this episode, but I spoke to Henry Winter, hugely experienced journalist, former chief sports writer of the Times for almost 10 years. Now doing some freelance stuff. Really talented guy, really knowledgeable guy. Worked in depth with the English national team as well as covering the Premier League over the years. Spent a lot of time with Joe Hart, spent a lot of time with Brendan Rodgers. And that in itself is a really interesting episode. And I put it to him, I think I used the term, well, we're talking about Matt O'Reilly, and Henry was at the recent Celtic Rangers game at Celtic Park, and he was hugely impressed by Matt O'Reilly, serious talent. And I then said something like, and at Celtic we accept our place in the pecking order, and you lose guys like Matt O'Reilly. And he went, well, hold on. do you have to accept your place in the pecking order, or at some point you need to say, hold on a minute, we're a big club in our own right, we're looking to build, we've got Champions League, we've got money. When do you say no to these guys just moving out? Now, don't get me wrong, if you've pre-agreed with an O'Reilly when he signs or within year one, listen, give us a couple of big years, Matt, and we'll let you go, then that's fine. You need to stick to your word as such as a club. But they've got O'Reilly, did they sign a new 4-year deal this summer? You've got Kyogo, you've got Maeda, you've got Hatate, you've got Callum McGregor, you've tied all these big players up. When are Celtic going to say, let's not accept our place in the food chain? When are we going to say, let's be Atalanta, let's go and compete? And I know we're in Champions League, they've won Europa, and there's kind of some debate to be had, how far can we go? We can go further than what we've done in recent years, put it that way. We can compete more than we've done in recent years. We're not going to win the Champions League, but can we get out of this new league format? Can we go and do something? Can we go and finally say, well, hold on, we are a big club, we're an ambitious club, and to do so, you need to hold on to your best players, and Matt O'Reilly's definitely one of them.
I think we're a stage before we can expect to retain those players. If we're in the signing guys for 8 to 10 and selling them for 30 to 40, and we're establishing ourselves as a European force again, and that means actually winning games in Europe, not just winning games and not having the shocking record we've got. I think then you can start to say, right, we're an established team and we want to improve even further, and you're part of that, Matt O'Reilly. I think he's a specific case. I think he was told in January, hold on with us till the summer, and if an offer comes in, we'll not stand in your way. That's pure supposition on my part, but I think that's what's happened. But I think we need to step up the levels before we can start retaining players like Matt O'Reilly, because you're then offering them things that meet their ambitions. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he stays. I think so. Asim and James, you both think he's definitely off. Get him out, Sharon. I think there's a possibility for a couple of reasons. And Paddy, you keep mentioning the fact that, or maybe I keep mentioning that you have mentioned. One of the two of us has mentioned this, that if he's part of the Danish squad for the Euros, and I've heard off the record that he is. No great insight, but somebody that spoke to somebody. That would be huge for him to know that he can be part of that while still a Celtic player. Wherever he goes, there is a fair possibility that he won't have 8 Champions League games to play. He might go to a mid-tier Premier League side.
I think he only goes to a team that's in the Champions League, 100%.
So just to round off my Henry Winter chat then, Henry Winter said if he does go, he has to go to a big club, and Celtic need to make sure that he goes to a big club, because again, that shows a pathway that you can come to Celtic, be a success, and go and then join a big hitter, Atletico, Inter Milan, and the various clubs that have been mentioned. Listen, we're running a wee bit tight for time. Obviously a busy show, huge stuff to talk about and to celebrate after the double success on Saturday. We'll start to wrap up. Just a couple of other wee things. Paddy Power's fan denial video.
Oh, I've not seen it.
I've seen it.
Always worth a watch. Tune into it after. Social media's been a fun place over the last few days. There's some really smart folks, some funny folks in Celtic's online space. So whether it's kind of video clips or some Tam Selleck stuff that we always see, some brilliant stuff out there, so well worth checking out. But yeah, Paddy Power's fan denial just out this afternoon. Asim, I'll come to you for your own final comments for the week.
Yeah, just another brilliant week supporting Celtic, another brilliant weekend. We spoke about it earlier. It is a season that I'll probably remember for a long time, just the way it's ended. I think it's been great, and now we can just fully enjoy the summer, enjoy the Euros, and then just look forward to it again. And it just makes such a difference knowing that we've managed to clinch the title and have that Champions League guaranteed. And I think we can all genuinely be hopeful that this summer will be different in terms of recruitment. I think that's what we're all waiting to see now. And then hopefully James will be back at Celtic Park next season.
Here's hoping. TBC.
Sneaking in.
There's a genuine excitement asking about what next season holds. James, speaking of you, what are you saying?
Just from a sporting point of view, it's been a brilliant season because you're out and you're back and you win it. It's nice to win it by Halloween, don't get me wrong, Paddy. I do enjoy those. Yeah. And then you have just 6 months of kind of mockery. But these are the ones that you remember for time to come, and I certainly will. But it's been 4 weeks of non-stop Celtic out celebrating, Celtic out celebrating. So the nicest way possible. I'm looking forward to a wee breather.
Yeah, exhausted. Paddy, last word of the day goes to you.
Yeah, I echo James on that. It's been a brilliant run in. I've thoroughly enjoyed the excitement of it. The nerves of it have been horrible as well. Aberdeen game being one of them at Hampden, and then obviously there on Saturday as well. Big moments, but as we've spoke about the mentality side of Celtic, we have a team littered with winners, and I just think that just breeds success. And Can't wait to see what happens next season. Looking forward to who we're linked with. Looking forward to who comes in the door. And I do think that the manager will be back this summer. I do.
He has to be, hasn't he?
I said it last night, he has to be.
Yeah, he's earned the right. So let's see what happens in the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. So that wraps things up on this latest episode of the Celtic Exchange Weekly. Thanks to James, Paddy and Asim, and thanks to you for tuning in. Don't forget to join us this week for those extra special shows on Wednesday and on Friday, and to visit the CelticExchange.supercast.com for details on how you can support what we do here at the Celtic Exchange. But in the meantime, as always, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again very soon.